Okay guys, we're back. It's Thursday morning. We've got about one more day. If there's any parts that we're gonna need, it's gonna have to be today. But you know, from yesterday, when we did get our parts, we were minus the vent valve. We did find that. But more importantly was the clutch disc. We were -1. So what I decided to do was just put the steels in and the old clutches, the old frictions. Well, as I was contemplating that overnight, as we were looking at this, how the two-wheel, four-wheel drive worked, we noticed that as we turned the shaft, that this was always engaged. Now, the only one thing that could be maybe that's causing that is that maybe the steels that we put in that we got from our supplier were thicker, and that it's putting in, the preload is a lot more than it should be, and it's keeping that engaged. So before we go ahead and button this up, we're gonna backtrack a little bit. We'll pull those clutches out, measure the steels to see if that is where our problem. Now, doing a little investigation on this clutch system requires a special tool, I believe, J4495 from, I can't remember if it was Miller, one of those tool guys that sets up the clutch pack correctly. I don't have that tool. We are running out of time, so if I pull it apart and those clutch discs or the clutch steels are the same thickness as we have over here on the old ones, we'll measure. If they're the same, we'll put this thing together as is. And like I say, the only reason why this transportation is even coming apart is because of the hole from the oil pump. So the clutches look good, so we're gonna backtrack now, measure, make sure, and feel confident as we button this thing up. Okay guys, we've got the output shaft taken back out of the transfer case. One of our concerns yesterday was that this drum wasn't spinning independent of the shaft. So our suspicion was that the clutches were staying engaged. Now, only difference thing that we did is that we put in the new steels without measuring them. So that's why we had to backtrack today, because we want to make sure those clearances are correct. Otherwise, if the clutches are not free, like we see in this drum here, we're just going to wear them out and it's never going to work correctly. So we want to be on the safe side. So we're going to go over here and measure these steels. We'll start with the old just so we know where to start. Yeah, we got 68.5. 68. So we know we got 9 of these. 9 times 68 is what? 9 times 70 is 630. See how close we get. We got 640. Pretty good addition, huh? So we know their average is about 68. Let's see what the new ones, because we didn't measure them yesterday. Zeroed out. 68. 68. 68. So we'll go ahead and measure all those. And if they match the old steels, we're going to put it back the way we had it. And knowing that this is our shim to adjust our clearance is at 33. As long as these steels match the old, we're going to go ahead and put this back together. But in the meantime, we just want to explain why we're doing what we're doing. So anyway, this fork down here, this one here, this is what's actuating the pressure plate right here to engage the clutches. Now in full-time four-wheel drive, those clutches are together. So we've got a direct, this drum is attached to the hub here, and we have a chain that's going to move our front output shaft for the drive line. So in automatic, we got speed sensors in here that's counting the rotation of our front output shaft and the rear. And as that encoder motor is going to apply amps and current to adjust the rotation of those output on the front and the rear, and correspond so that there's no slipping and it has equal torque to both front and rear. So anyway, we're going to put this back. We feel confident of what we felt yesterday is normal. And guess what? We're going to button it up and we're going to get it installed. All right, guys, one of the first things you're going to do is put a friction in. And then comes the steel. Now, the trick to this is to line up all these ears all in alignment, all in as you stack this up. Be sure you don't stagger them, but they all line up like that. So once we've got a friction, a steel, we'll put in another friction. And last of all, our shim. And then our pressure plate would come in. Now it's got to line up. You'll feel it go in, just like that. Now the tool that these transfer cases need to set up the clutches is a J4479 Kentmore, and it's a 10-pound weight that would go on here to preload our pressure plate. Of course, there's another apparatus, and then we would measure the clearance. And then we would know what shim that we would need for the proper clearance. So it's very important that you have that clearance and not just guess, because you do not want the clutches slipping, and you want them to engage at the right time when you're asking for four-wheel high automatic. We want these things in sync. So anyway, we don't have that tool. We're putting in parts. We'll keep the original frictions. The steels that we do have the correct amount of, they were the same size, so we're going to put it back together and we're going to button it up. Okay, get your half moon ring. Get it started in the groove. Now I normally will let that go back up like that. I'll get my big set of pliers. Okay. Didn't need no pliers. Fingers of steel. Last night Ben was asking, because we were wondering, how's that four-wheel drive work? I mean, it feels stiff, and it is. But there it is. It does move independent. Actually, it feels a lot better today than it did yesterday. Yeah, so anyway, time we get our chain on here, everything drive line, and this is sitting in a horizontal position instead of vertical where the weight will be taken off. I bet this thing's going to work just fine. So anyway, we're going to continue to put it back together. Just like that. Let's get our chain back in. We got our link, color links out. Now some of these different transfer cases will have maybe a 2 color links. So when you're ordering your parts, be sure you get the color links. They may ask you for that because some of these gear ratios are different. But we just putting it back the way we found it. Yeah, let's see. Let's just go that way. Now we've got witness marks here where the splines are on the snap ring. We're going to put it back down the way we found it, where the witness marks, maybe. I always like this part. Clip, click, and we'll do the same for the output. There we go. We're getting ready to put the oil pump in. We've got a new O-ring that came with our kit. A little bit of blue assembly lube. We've got our tube over here we had to clean out. And we're just going to put it in there, make sure it's in there flush, which it is. Yeah, go like that. This unit uses an auto track fluid. It's blue. I know, we assembled it with a little bit of that Lucas, and that's just for starting up purposes, assembly purposes only. It'll mix just fine. Let's go ahead and put a little oil, primer oil, down our pump. That's all you're going to need. Let's go ahead and get that installed. go. We got a wave spring, goes on next. We got our tone ring. This is where our speed sensor counts the teeth, and a bearing. We want this ring groove here facing up so it catches that circlip snap ring in the other case half. Guys, last thing we've got our pump in, the bearing. Got to put our magnet in, don't forget that. Just slides in right there. So guys, we're ready to get the other new case half, and I'll put the new snap ring in, the dowel pins. We'll prep the surface. We'll get our ultra gray out here, and we'll start assembling. Hey guys, before we button it up, we're gonna put a little bit of lube on our chain. That's probably all we'll need, just so that we don't have a dry start. It's gonna be bathed in oil anyway. So anyway, there you go. Okay guys, we're getting ready to install our snap ring on our new case. Just want to show you where that goes. It does for the rear bearing. We have a groove back here. Here's our opening, is when we'll use our snap ring pliers as we're going on to spread this to fit around this bearing, the upper groove. So let's get it installed. Not that tough. That's all it is. It's in the groove. It's gonna free float, and we're ready to go. Now, our dowels are already in. We did stick them in here. We did do a pre-run, and they stayed in the case. That's okay. A couple things to note. We will want to lube our bearing here, and we got a bushing there, but that's where the driveline yoke will ride. We'll lube that later. We've lubed our chain. We're gonna prep the surfaces, and we're gonna button her up. Here's our pump fix here, our case saver. It's an adapter case, and what that's going to do is going to fit in these where the pump ears go. And it looks like we got ears that are sticking up, so where the edge of the pump is going to hit the case saver instead of the case half. So anyway, that is installed on top of the pump at this time. And it's going to sit just like that, and it'll remain there because it'll be put into the ears here, the slots, and it'll be all retained. So anyway, we're going to get some silicone on this. We're going to get the case halves together. But first of all, before we do that, there's always you've got to prep the surfaces. Just use a little brake clean. And we want any oil residues removed so that our silicone will have great adhesion. Just wipe it down. And you'll want to do that to both halves. She's being buttoned up here. We'll get her started. We'll whip her around on our little adapter here so we can access our snap ring. Let's have a look at it. Is she in position yet? She will be. Okay. We will need to torque them to 27 foot-pounds. Just want to seat them, get our glue to spread out. 25, 26, 27. Click. Clack. We've got our transfer case off our adapter that was on the bench here. Our last things to do is we need to put in seals. But don't forget your snap rings. We've got one here on the output shaft for the front and the input shaft here. So we got two snap rings that need to be replaced. We'll replace our seals. We'll torque these pivot bolts down to 41 pounds, I think Ben said, and our speed sensor 45, and our speed sensors are, I think, at 11. This requires an ass jack. I need my cameraman here. He's gonna not put much pressure, just enough so that holds that shaft in. Just back that way. Yeah, it don't have to be much. Gotta like that noise. And she'd be in. Do one more. What's nice about these snap rings, they've got little holes here that sometimes will help and aid, you know, directing the snap ring. So let's give it a shot. Yeah, she's seated. Anytime we hear that click, we know it's seated. So let's get our front seal installed. This takes a special tool. You can buy these. I made my own. We'll just simply put the seal there. It's just a race out of a bearing that we had. We even had it cut out. Sometimes when that motor's there, it fits around. And we've got this. Most of you guys will recognize that as the 4L60 input drum. One that was broke. Works just fine. Fits in there just like that. Goes down in there. We'll tap it here. Get that seal installed. Put a very little bit of lube on here. I know it's rubber, so you can say not to, but I don't want it catching on the case. So put a little bit. And then this is like a double seal. This is seals on that shaft right here. Very rarely do we see a problem with these leaking. It's just that we have it apart. We needed to get to that snap ring is why we have this apart. So safety first. Let's see if this still works. She broke! Not good. Hopefully it comes out of there. Oh, well, let's make it work. And there you have it. Even when it's broken, it still worked. These fork pivot pins, they've got their new O-rings. Let's go ahead and torque them to 45. There's one. That seal came out nice. We got our snap ring here, right? Put in already. Guys, this is a double lip seal. This seals in the transfer case oil and any transmission oil tail shaft housing, so it doesn't cross contaminate. So as you can see, this has the garter spring right here, and we are going to be doing some pounding, driving it in. So we're going to coat this with, or fill it in with some assembly lube grease, both sides, so that we retain our spring and it doesn't fall off. You know when it's in there, when you hear the difference, the solid sound that it makes. That's in. We got our front seal in. All right, kind of like that. We'll just reference that as our up because we know that goes at an angle. And as we get it in there right, we want that bleed hole. Yeah, we'll just line this up with this spline on the back here. And that'll give us our down, pull down, hoe down. Actually, it'll be a lot easier once I get it mounted. This way we can have the drain hole in its correct position. So we can do that when we get it mounted. Guys, one of the technical service bulletins when I worked at a GM dealership and we had a leak out of transfer case, we normally found this plug where the auto track or any of the ATF would swell this and it would start leaking. The cure for that was take it out, clean it, put some RTV, just put it on the plug because as you push it in, it's going to push it out. We don't want to put it on the case and then have the silicone go in and dry up in there. You just go just like this. And that was the cure for the transfer case leaks from General Motors. So just keep that in mind when you put yours in, put some silicone and get the TSB already done. Okay guys, we're down to putting our speed sensors in. We'll put new O-ring. We just discovered something on this aftermarket case and I'll just go over it with you right now just so that you're aware. The plugs that it comes with are not pipe plugs. These plugs went all the way in. On the old ones they are, on your other case they are a pipe plug to where they'll seal themselves as you're tightening. These, we had to add a copper washer. This is what you get with the aftermarket junk. So to seal this right, we had some copper washers. You know, at least it could have came with the washers, you know. I mean, this is stupid. I'm tired of reinventing the wheel on stuff and then paying for it. It's just ridiculous. Straighten up, aftermarket. Guys, we're gonna go ahead and put our speed sensors in. We've just put a little assembly lube so that when we put our new O-rings on, they'll slide over the threads. Right there, just trying to move it around a little bit. And these sensors are all the same. And that's our front one there, so we'll go ahead and get that one started. We'll do the remaining two. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and torque down our sensors here. I know this doesn't go down to 11, it goes 15. We'll just make it look like it's 11. Okay guys, we're down to putting the encoder motor in. We do have the spacer plate. It does have the orange silicone already embossed into it. This is going to seal any contaminants out of the thing, out of our motor. It looks in really good condition. If yours isn't, go ahead and get a new one or use some silicone to keep the road grime out. So let's go ahead and fit it to our transfer case. Well, just like that. Our bolts are prepped. I always, when we're going into aluminum, I'll put a little bit of ATF on it so that, and then we start them by hand. Just a little bit of lubrication so nothing goes in smooth, don't strip anything. And I think those are 15s. We'll go ahead and get them. We'll have a torque spec, but we're just going to get them down to seat the motor right now. Do it evenly. And that's all you got to do. We'll get a torque spec. We'll get this thing torqued. Right now we'll get them seated. There you go. One thing I was wondering why I ground this tool here. I wonder, is it because the motor was on? Let's see. No, I must have used it for a different purpose, but great tool. That's why I save all this stuff, and you'll see on my wall over here, I save all these just for when I have a special application and I don't have availability for the tool, the proper tool. I'm in a remote location, really hard to get parts. And even add on with all the snow, and it's just a nightmare. So we use all this stuff for different applications. I know you guys do it too. So anyway, we're gonna torque the motor down, get it on our cart, and we're going over to the vehicle. Well guys, that about ends this video with the 246 transfer case build. We have it installed, we have it filled, we've already ran it through all the gears, which has the 4 low, 4 high, automatic, and 2-wheel drive. Now before we started this, when we did have it in 2-wheel drive, it'd fall back out into auto on the automatic side. So by putting a new encoder motor in, we've accomplished the getting all the gears, they're staying there. It's been tested on the rack. And Ben and Lacey are going to be going to Boise tomorrow. They got to do one final trip. This will be a great trip before they start heading to Texas, pulling the trailer. If there's going to be a problem, we need to know ahead of time. But right now, the drivetrain's back in. One last thing we're going to do is we have a code. We have a rear O2 possibly. We're going to find that out. But if you like this video, go ahead and subscribe, ring the bell, and stay tuned for some more videos that we've got coming out. Y'all have a great day.